Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first Document Solutions Code Clinic Live. Today, we're going to be talking about smarter PDF automation in .NET using AI summaries, outlines, and table extraction. And this is going to be presented by myself, Hunter Hoff, the product manager for Document Solutions, and
My name is Ty Glens. I'm with the technical engagement team here at Meshius.
all right. So, what are you going to learn today? By the end of the session, we're hoping that you'll be able to build intelligent AI-powered PDF workflows using .NET. You're going to be able to generate and work with those PDF documents programmatically. We'll be able to use AI to summarize those complex documents. We can create structured outlines with it and extract tabular data. And we can also turn unstructured PDF content into actionable structured information. We can apply those techniques to real-world automation scenarios. So this is exactly how we're going to cover it. First, we're going to do a quick brief intro to the Document Solutions for PDF API library. We're going to create a .NET console application from scratch, and we're going to import the DsPdf library via NuGet. And then we're going to create a PDF object from scratch and fill in the content for that PDF. And once we have all that done, we're going to use DsPdfAI to summarize, outline, extract tables, and allow user-inputted prompts into our application. And finally, we're going to save the PDF, and we'll have a Q&A session afterwards. And for those of you who stay to the end, we're also giving away a DsPdf license. So be sure to stay tuned for that, and that'll be going out after the presentation ends. All right, so the Document Solutions for PDF API library, also referred to as DsPdf. This is an API library that you can use to programmatically create or edit PDF documents in C# or VB.NET. It's a powerful API library. It has a lot of features. Only some are listed here. I'll briefly cover them. You can create and edit PDF documents, of course. You can format those PDF documents. You can add rich media, advanced fonts, and it has multi-language support. You can convert those files in other formats. You can handle PDF form content, such as acroforms. You can extract content. There's security features and PDF signature functionality support, and much more. And DsPdfAI is also included in the Document Solutions for PDF API library. So the DsPdfAI assistant, it is contained in the grapecity.documents.pdf.ai namespace. And for those of you who are familiar with us, Grape City used to be our previous company name before we were Meshius. So in order to not break anyone's code, we kept all of our namespaces as they previously were. That's why you'll see Grape City in some of our using statements as we present this later. This is an OpenAI services-based package, the DsPdfAI assistant. So it utilizes OpenAI.net and Azure.ai.openai as well. And currently we have 3 AI-powered features that are supported. That's document summary and abstract generation, document outline tree generation, and the ability to extract tables from a document. And this can also be utilized within our DsPdf viewer JavaScript package, which we'll show at the end of the demonstration. So now to the actual fun stuff. Let's get into that live demonstration with Ty. Handling it.
That's right. Just to start out here, what you're seeing here, we just have a basic console app open. We're using .NET 10, and we've made basically no other changes to it. The only other thing that we have added, which you'll see here, we've just included this font file that we're going to utilize later for a text format.
All right.
So we can get rid of this stuff here. The first thing we will be doing is installing the NuGet packages that we'll be using. And I believe we will have a download link for the sample so that you can follow along with us.
Yeah, that'll be in the description of this video if you're watching on YouTube.
So we're just going to look for DsPdf.
I think you misspelled it a little bit. Yep.
Yep. There we go. So we're just gonna go ahead and install the latest version of that. And then we're also gonna be looking down here. There's DsPdf.ai. We're also gonna need that package as well. Okay,
Nice.
that should be it there. We can see in our dependencies. And now we can actually move on to the code. So the first thing we'll add here is our using statements. And like Hunter explained, like here we have our Grape City branding that's still on here, just to ensure that there's complete backwards compatibility.
Yeah. And we also have some standard system namespaces added there as well. Just use the drawing and the text packages that are built into your machine.
And so next, I'll be copying and pasting code blocks in. Hunter will be kind of helping explain things as I do that throughout this example.
Yeah.
So first we just have our namespace class, and then we're also setting a license key. This is used by DsPdf, and this will just ensure that we don't see any watermarks in our generated documents. But you can use DsPdf in a free mode without a license key. There will just be some evaluation watermarks.
Yep. There's some watermarks that pop up, and you're limited to how many pages you can actually generate at once with the trial. But otherwise, it's full featured. And yeah, you can test everything out on your own without spending a dime. All right. So the first thing that we want to do here is create a function for actually creating the PDF. So as the function name suggests, we're going to use this to create that PDF. And in here, that's going to be creating a new GC PDF document. We can pass in a license key. And that's on line 23. And on line 24, we just create a new page for that document. And we can set some parameters for that page, such as the size. So in this case, we're just going to set the width and the height. And we're also going to create a graphics class to handle drawing the text later on. And we also want to have a text layout. And this is what we're going to use to kind of handle all the font information and settings that we want within our document. So we'll have a couple different text layouts as we build this along. So with that text layout object, you can see that we're setting the max height and the max width all based on the page parameters we set earlier. We also have the margin that we're going to set to be 1-inch margins all around, and we can set the default font. In this case, we're just using Times New Roman. We can also set some paragraph formatting as well, such as the paragraph spacing and the line spacing scale factor throughout our paragraphs. And lastly, we just create another default text format. So in this case, we're just setting the font and the font size that we're going to use for the body of our text. All right, next up, we just had a second page and we're going to draw a table on it because we're going to utilize this table to showcase the table extraction later. So here we just need a new page, another graphics class object added, and then we have a draw table method, which we're going to build out later throughout this document. And finally, we just save that document as a new PDF. So that'll be the first PDF that we generate is just going to be the content PDF, and we'll return that document because we're going to send it to the DsPdfAI library to further analyze it.
And then just to show kind of the document we'll be building, it's a pretty basic document. Here we have basically a summary of a children's story. We have these different section headers that are using their own text format. We have this title text, which is also using its own text format. And then on the second page here is the table, just some basic sales data on some plushies, and all this data here is randomized, and that is the document.
Yeah, so this is what we'll be building out here. And this is what will be essentially generated by the end of this. The numbers will be different because we're randomizing them. But just to keep that in mind as you view the code here on the screen. All right. So here we actually create that add text function that we need to add the text within our document. And we just pass in that graphics object and the page width and the page height, as well as the text layouts and text formats we set prior to kind of control and handle all of the default font stuff. But if we want to customize some of the font stuff, there's no reason why we can't just create a new text format in here, which we do on line 63. This one's for the headers. So all the different header sections, they're going to use the same font, have the same font size, and they'll be bolded. And then similarly for the title text, it'll have the same font, and the only difference is the font size will be slightly larger, as it will be the title of our story. We're also now going to just add in that actual content. So all we need to do is use the append line method, and the append line method automatically adds another line at the end of the content being added. So we don't have to manually add in new line. It'll just do it at the end of the method. So first thing, we just create that title, and we pass in the header formatting for the title. But then for our actual title line, the little cloud who shined on 81, we pass in the TF title formatting because we want that font to be bigger. And then we just append a paragraph break. So now there's going to be a break between the two sections. And then we just continue building out our document, passing in the content, as you can see there, until we get to the end. And then finally, we use the text layout perform layout method to actually apply all the layout formatting that we've set prior. And then we actually draw that text layout to place it on the page, and we can set where we're going to place it by passing that in to the method. All right, and then also we need that draw table method. So similar to the draw text, we just have the graphics class, and we pass in the page width and the page height. And here we're going to have those random records, so we need a new random variable. And we also need a list of records, which we're going to be adding. Also a records class to handle that list. But for now, you can see that we just have a new record for each of those objects in the table. And then we apply random variables up to 0 to 10 inside our actual table. All right, now we also want to create a layout host and layout view that'll actually be hosting the table. So on line 123, we just create the host and the view. And then on line 127, we create a rectangular bound based on that view. That's actually going to be where the table will be placed on the page. We're going to anchor that on the top left, so we know where the top left corner is going to be. And then we need a table renderer on line 132 that we create, and we can pass in all the variables for how we want to format our table into the table renderer. So we just pass in the rectangular bounds. If we want the fixed table sides, where they want them to be, the row count, column count, any coloring or width options for the grid lines, and then the minimum row height. There's other parameters that you can set in there, but we're just keeping it simple and basic for this demonstration. All right, and we also want to apply some styling. So here's some cell styling for the table. You can set padding on the top, bottom, or left, right. And you can also set if you wanted to have a fixed width or not. You can set text formatting just like we've done with other sections of this sample. So we just set the font and the font size. We also can create headers for the header cells in the table. So these will just have slightly different paddings. We can set the paragraph alignment for how we want it to be aligned. We can also set the same thing for the text alignment. And again, text formatting if we want to change the font size or the bolding. And then finally, we'll have the width of the cells, what we want the max width to be, and how we want the numbers to be displayed in terms of text alignment In this case, we just have them trailing. All right. And then finally, we are going to do the table header rows. So in here, we can apply that header formatting that we set earlier for the default cell style for those table headers. And then we can add in those cells. So we're going to have the title, the January plushie unit sales, followed by the color options, red, blue, green. You can see we're just incrementing through that table to actually apply those lines of text. Then we're also going to add in that randomized data. So we can apply the styling that we wanted for the actual table content cells. And then we just have a for loop that increments through all the records and adds in the cells from all the randomized information that we created earlier. And then lastly, we just apply the cell constraints to all the different formatting that we set earlier, and then we render the table on the page. And here's that record class that we needed just to actually set all those lists of records that we created earlier. So that one is pretty self-explanatory there. You got the color and the ints, all that good stuff.
So now at this point, we can add our main method. Actually, I'm gonna get rid of that just to make sure.
Yeah, so here we're going to just try running the sample as it is right now. We can just see the new PDF that we created. You'll notice that it looks almost identical other than the table values to the previous PDF that we created prior. And then right after this, we're going to dive into the DsPdfAI library and showcase the functionalities that exist that you can utilize in your own applications. In this case, we'll be using it on this PDF that we're generating right now. But hopefully, here we go.
Yep. So here is the new document generated.
Nice.
Here we can see we have the same sections as we showed in the preview document, including the title text, which is bigger, and the same table structure, and we should be able to see here the data is different.
Yeah.
So that's how we generated our document. And now we can get into the some of the actual AI stuff.
Yeah.
So let me just make a bunch of space there. Here we go.
All right. So with DsPdfAI, we're going to need a second draw table method because this is actually going to be the method that the AI library is going to start utilizing when we want to extract that table information. We need it to also redraw it on the page just to show that it extracted it correctly. So the first thing we want to add is just a quick if statement to check if it did find a table, just as like a sanity check. And we can write a line, no table has been found if there is no table that it found, and that'll be it. Otherwise, we're going to go in and similar to what we did with the original draw table method, we're going to need a host and a view to actually control where and what page the table is going to be on. And then we're going to create the rectangular bounds from that view for the table and set the top left anchor point on it. And then here we actually create that table renderer just similar to what we did before. And we just pass in again the rectangular bounds. If you want the fixed table size, what side, the row count, the column count, any grid line coloring or width options, and then a minimum column and row height and width. And then here we just apply some default cell styling for that table, very similar to what we did prior. You can set the max width, the text alignments, the padding on the top, bottom, and left, right. If we want the width to be fixed or not, and then some text formatting, so we can set the font size, and if we want the font size and graphic units, just to make sure that it's consistent. All right, and then here we just have a nested for loop. So we're going to go through all the rows and columns of the table. So we're going to hit every single cell, and then we're going to find that data in the cell. So we're going to just pull everything out, and if there's nothing in that cell, we just can put no data. Otherwise, we're going to have the console write adding the cells, and this is just going to show their console building out the table as we're going through this loop. And finally, we add those cells to the table render based on the iterations that we just went through. And then we're going to apply the cell constraints like we've done in the past for all the styling for the cells, and then we're going to actually render that newly generated table on our page. All right, and then here we're just adding a function so we can mark on our new PDF. This is just be an add note function. So this will just simply say this portion of the document was created with DsPdfAI. So I'll briefly go through this. All we're doing is just adding in another graphics object and creating a text layout, and then setting the pad or the page portion of the page where we actually want to be drawing this. We can just set in a default font and a font size. And then we're just kind of determining whether or not that section has any annotations on it. And we have our ifs and else ifs to determine what happens in those scenarios. And then we can set the max width for annotation. We just set the margin as well. And here we can actually put in, if we have any text specifically that we wanted to add, we can have a list of text to run through. And for every variable in that, we can append the text or annotation, and then we just perform the layout similar to what we've done in the past, so any styling. And then we just have a for loop that goes through and determines where we actually want to place in each of these runs of the add note code, wherever it's needed. And then we just draw an annotation rectangle and place the text inside of it. And you can set some different properties in there, like if you want it to be offset or inflate any of the portions of the page parameters. And then you just fill the rectangles, draw the rectangles, and draw the text layout and return that. All right. So moving on to the DsPdf portion for this, you're going to need to utilize an OpenAI token simply because DsPdf by default works with the OpenAI library as we discussed prior. So we're going to need an OpenAI token to actually authorize and utilize this with the model. So we're going to create an async task here. And the reason being is that we have to wait for the AI's response because it needs to think about the prompts that we're going to be applying it. So everything is going to be async. And the first thing we need is that OpenAI token. So we have it there. In this case, we have to decrypt it from base64. And then we can pass it in as a variable OpenAI token, as we see on line 332. And then on line 333, we create this A variable, which is actually going to be our OpenAI document assistant. And we pass in that OpenAI token. And this is going to be our handy helper throughout this entire section of the DsPdf AI example. So next, we're going to create our document, and we just create a new GC PDF document object, and we pass in that license key. And then with our file stream, we want to open up the file that we just created. So we pass in that new pdf.pdf, and we're going to load that into our new document object. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is get the abstract for the PDF. So we're going to create this task abstract variable, and we're going to use that document AI assistant A variable to call the get abstract method. Here we can pass in our document and the page range where we want the abstract generated from. And then we're going to wait until it's done thinking. And after that, we'll have the page abstract. We'll insert that under the very beginning of the document. So our first page is now going to be that abstract, and we'll add that note. This abstract was generated using the DsPdf AI assistant. Next, we can get the summary of the PDF document. So again, we're going to utilize the DsPdfAI assistant with the get summary message here. We're just setting the parameter for it to analyze the PDF and return a summary of the document. This is simply going to be the prompt that you're going to pass in for the summary message. How do we want that? So then we create a new variable task summary, and we call the get summary method, pass in our document and the page range, and we wait again, just like we did prior, and then it'll insert that summary in the very first page of the PDF. Again, a new first page, and we'll just add that note. Summary was generated using DsPdfAI assistant. We'll pass it in. All right, so in this portion now, we're going to show that you can build an outline tree for the PDF document, but also we're going to show that you can utilize user input to actually determine that prompt if you'd want. So we're going to have the console write a line here to enter the prompt for building the outline. And then we're going to have a user prompt where it'll just be a console read line. So whatever the user types in to the console will be the prompt then. And we can set that then on line 364 for the build outlines message. And now we await. So we just simply wait for it to be done thinking after we call the build outlines method and pass in the doc. And that'll give us our new document with an outline structure attached. All right, and finally, we are going to show how to just extract a table from the PDF document using the DsPdfAI assistant. So here you can set the get table message format property, and you can just pass in your prompt that you want. So in this case, we're just analyzing the PDF and returning the table only without any additional information. And then we have a new variable similar to what we've done prior. We have a task table, and we call the get table method. We pass in the document, and we can further specify which table to target as one of the parameters that we're passing into the method. So we're just going to say extract the table from the last page of the PDF. We're going to wait for it to think and finish doing that. And then we're going to insert it again into the very first page of the PDF. And we'll add a note there on the page that this table data was extracted using the DsPdfAI assistant. And we're going to call that draw table AI method so that we can actually redraw the table and apply in all that extracted information that we created earlier. And then finally, we're going to save this document as a new title name so it doesn't overwrite the last one. And this will just be the DsPdfAI assistant example.pdf. So now we just need to add it into our main method, and we should be good to go to run it.
Yep. So as we can see here, it's going to be generating that document again. So I have that table will have new data, and then we're going to run this AI sync to extract the data that we ask for and append that to new pages in this new document we're going to save. And then see here we have our user prompt. So for the outline, I'm just going to ask it to base the outline off of section headers. Ignore any table headers.
All right. And then you can see the lines where we added the cells for the draw table AI method, just so that we know it went through and found these different portions of the table and actually rewrote them out. So before we even see the new PDF, we can be fairly certain that it extracted the table successfully.
That's right. So let me close that out. Here is our new current document. Here's the current data that we have now. And then here is the AI extracted data document that we just created.
Yep, you can see the notes that we added above with that add note method that we created. And we can see all of the tables extracted as we expected. We didn't include any header rows because we were only interested in the table data itself. We also have then our summary that was generated with the DsPdfAI assistant. We can see a quick summary of that short story. And we also have an abstract of that short story on the next page there. And below it, we'll just see the actual generated PDF because we just inserted all of those pages to the beginning. And then we can also see the outline here. So we have the intro, the body, the conclusion, some SQL ideas, and then our table at the bottom. So it didn't include that color option, red, blue, green. It just included the table itself, which is what we wanted. And yeah, so this, because it's generated with the DsPdfAI and it's utilizing AI, these results could change from each run of this, but that's why you want to just make sure that you're specifying your prompts as tight as you can to reduce variability and ensure that you can reproduce the results, but they will be accurate regardless, just depending on the bounds that you supply in. So one other thing that I wanted to showcase was the ability to use DsPdfAI with the DsPdf viewer. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, we also offer a viewer that comes with DsPdf. You get the standard viewer license just for purchasing license of DsPdf, and you can use that to view your documents. And if you get the professional version, you also get these editor features. So one of those features is you can create new sidebar options. In this case, the new sidebar option is going to be that ChatGPT integration with DsPdfAI. So there's the new AI tools panel, and we expand it out. We can see that we have an option to choose our model if we want concise responses or not. And we can then summarize the content. So this is essentially going to do what we just showed on the server side. It's going to summarize the data, add in a new page in the very beginning, and then resend that document back to the viewer. So after the new document is created, it's sent back to the viewer here, and we can see that it generated this summary in the top. We can even see the timestamp and the model that was used. So all of this will also be in linked in the description in case anyone viewing this on YouTube later wants to take a closer look. But I thought it would be interesting now. All right, so we're going to end this here shortly, but first we're going to have a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And also, you can see our contact information here. We have the sales and support emails, as well as links to our demos and the product page. If you'd like to download a free trial, you can do so by scanning the QR code on the screen or visiting that link, and you can have a free 30-day trial. And we give extensions in case you need it to those trials, but it's a full feature trial. And yeah, that's about it. So feel free to ask away. So how does licensing work is the first question. So licensing works with Document Solutions. We have perpetual licenses, meaning if you purchase a license now, you get, we just came out with a V9 release. So you get the V9.0. You also get a free year of updates. You get V9.1, V9.2, and up to the V10 release. And then if you wanted anything after V10, you'd have to renew your license. Otherwise, if you're satisfied with just those versions, you can remain on V10 or prior indefinitely, since it is a perpetual license. So you don't need to renew to keep it working, only if you want future further updates. So the difference between, so this question is, how is this different from just using ChatGPT on a PDF? So The difference is that you can use this in a pipeline if you wanted to build out some things where you can programmatically be running this over and over again. Whereas if you're just using ChatGPT on a PDF, you would actually have to go in, load it, send it each manually, and it would just take significantly longer than creating or utilizing a pipeline programmatically. Can I use other models besides OpenAI, ChatGPT? So by default, you can use, it does use OpenAI. So just to make everything simple, you can just pass everything in that way, or you can also control the endpoint. We have a demo available where you can control the endpoint on your model that you're using. So in that case, you could set whatever model that you'd want to use as long as you pass in the proper credentials. So you would need, similar to how we use an OpenAI token, you would need the proper token to utilize that model. Or if it's your own in-house model, you could utilize that as well. And we can also just supply this link to this demo in the video description as well. In case anyone's interested, we'll have that there. All right. So any last calls for any other questions? If not, we're going to go over to the giveaway code. Thank you for staying to the end. So again, this is a QR code you can scan now on your screen to enter the free DsPdf license giveaway. Hope everyone has luck in their favor.
Yes, good luck.
And thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, everyone.